name is Max Porterfield. I'm president and CEO of Callinex Mines, where we're domiciled in Canada, expanding very high-grade copper and gold-rich VMS discoveries outside the Flin district of northern Manitoba. And we're also backstopped by a deep portfolio of base and precious metals-rich VMS deposits in eastern Canada.
Nice, good to see you, sir. Good to see you indeed. Right, there's a lot of gold stories out there, and a lot of people bringing out a lot of old dusty tungsten copper stories. What am I getting if I look at Calinex? What precisely am I buying into?
Yes, certainly. So if you're buying Calinex today for less than a $20 million market cap Canadian, you're getting exposure to just shy of 6 million tons of some of the highest grade copper mineralization, not just North America, but on a global basis with our Rainbow deposit in our Pine Bay camp. And beyond just Rainbow and the Pine Bay deposit at the Pine Bay camp, you're getting over 10,000 hectares of a consolidated package of geology that's been underexplored over the past several decades that we can believe that we can expand those resources in the very short future, and we'll discuss that today. And then beyond that, we have a PEA state zinc lead asset in New Brunswick, Canada, as well as just shy of 20 million ton gold, copper, zinc deposit pit constrained in Newfoundland. So all these assets are in known Canadian mining jurisdictions. They have size, they've got scale, and they've got infrastructure in close proximity that can be utilized to fast-track the advancements of them.
Right. If you don't mind, today I kind of want to focus on Manitoba, right? And as you already said, you've got a lot of targets, you've done a lot of drilling, we've seen some high-grade stuff coming out of the ground there, but I'm trying to work out what I'm meant to focus on. So what are you focused on?
Well, certainly what we've been focused up until more recently is the advancement of Rainbow and Pine Bay. We've done all the engineering work now, the baseline studies, and we've submitted for an advanced exploration permit for those two deposits. Well, for Rainbow in particular, you would access Pine Bay deposit through Rainbow. But again, the AEP is to access Rainbow through a ramp. Rainbow comes within 90 meters of surface. It's a very shallow discovery. It's been drilled out to 900 meters underground. And that AEP allows you to take a 10,000 ton per day bulk sample to do aggressive metallurgical work, get a better understanding of the dimensions of the deposit, as well as provide a platform for future underground exploration. Meanwhile, as we've consolidated this significant land package, we've now outlined areas where we're looking to grow our high-grade copper and gold resource base through existing near-surface deposits in these areas that we've just acquired that have never been put in 3D, have certainly not been put in the context that we have with our expertise and our track record of success. And we're looking to expand those resources very quickly to significantly grow the resource base that we have that's currently underway at permitting that we just discussed here, kind of mentioned.
Okay, I was just going to roll back a bit there. You mentioned this exploration permit because in relation to the kind of bulk sample at Rainbow, you've submitted that already?
Yes, so we've submitted the advanced exploration permit, and that's been underway in now just a couple of days. The AEP is the first phase of permitting. Once you receive the AEP, you're then in a position with additional environmental work, engineering work, to then submit for your environmental license. And at that point, when you receive your environmental license, you're provided ability to do full-scale production. So again, we're aggressively advancing the first discoveries that we've been growing over the past several years and looking to receive that AEP potentially by the end of this year. And then that puts us in the position to then submit an environmental license at some point in the future to then go full-scale production. And so you can add value to your project in more than one way. Obviously, the way we like to do it is with the drill bit through exploration. But the other way, and I think one that's having a big spotlight shined upon it around the world, is transitioning and actually getting those resources out of the ground. And Manitoba has always been a great jurisdiction for that. That's why Flon's known around the world for its high grades. And that's why the workforce, the infrastructure is all sitting there in place for us.
Right. Okay. And obviously, like we've seen a few companies re-examine their business plan over the past couple of years, where it's been kind of difficult for explorers. We've seen a few people look at this kind of bulk sample options, kind of well, get some money through the door, I suppose, not as a sort of anti-dilatory potential. For you, you talked about the process that you're going to go through. How quickly do you think you could get to a point where you get a bulk sample done, get it, and what conversations we had about processing it, and then obviously generating some cash, to put it crudely?
So I'm sorry, what's the question regarding all that?
Well, it's just like, how do you get to the point where you can monetize the kind of bulk sample bit? Because I assume that's why you're trying to do it, isn't it?
Well, I think that the biggest thing is that we want to be able to ramp down to the deposit in gaining access. And by getting this done early, aside from being the ability to ramp down, take the bulk sample, which is all critical phases at some point that needs to be done, we're also getting in front of the permitting stages now as opposed to later. You've seen this done in other different projects in Canada, in this immediate area, as the path forward with permitting, that ultimately the bulk sample is not actually taken, you transition to full-scale production. So the bulk sample being the case is a potential situation. The other potential situation is you bypass that and you transition into full-scale production. And so that's how that is being approached in terms of the permitting plans in the immediate future. We're really focused on growing significantly the resource base beyond just the known Rainbow and Pine Bay deposits that we've delineated as part of the AEP, and that is the big push is to the north on this newly consolidated ground that we've unencumbered that has really been sparsely explored. When it was explored, we're talking some of the areas in the 1940s to the 50s that haven't been followed up. Or when they were explored with the modern tools, they were very kind of early days for those tools, and they just didn't follow through. And a big part is going that one step further, and where we think they fell short, which is a huge opportunity for us. But being able to significantly grow our resource base on the property with additional high-grade ramp-accessible deposits will then allow us to improve and grow our envisioned mine plan beyond the 1,300 to 1,500 tons per day that you're looking at with the two known deposits on site due to their dimensions. So again, exploration with the drill bit is going to be the focus as the permitting is in the background. And that focus is going to be growing high-grade near-surface deposits that we think could be even larger than Rainbow when you get into them and possess even more mineralization than what we have on the site, on the property today. Because again, the property has always had the potential to host giants. And when I say giants, I mean more than one. VMS deposits occurring clusters. And why we refer to it as the Pine Bay Camp, because it's truly a camp-size land package, no different than the Snow Lake Camp or the Flin Flon Camp are within the broader Flin Flon Greenstone Belt of the Flin Flon District.
Okay, so if the idea is obviously to upgrade the resource, I mean, what type of drilling? So we're talking infill definition drilling, and is that going to be done only once you've got underground access? I mean, how does it map out going forward?
What are you talking about at Rainbow?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of Rainbow, we will need to go back and do some obviously some infill drilling on that. When you're looking at a mine plan, you're looking to drill out your mine plan within the first 3 years. That drilling can be done from surface because Rainbow comes so close to surface to that end. And then beyond that, if you look at the Rainbow resource, the majority of the Rainbow resource is already in the indicated category. And we've had that tightly spilled drilling as we delineated that deposit from 900 meters underground up to surface. The priority for exploration drilling moving forward in the near future is to expand new high-grade resources from these historic deposits, not do infill drilling. We don't believe there's going to be a tremendous amount of value added for our shareholders by drilling what's known, because it's already been drilled to a pretty high confidence level in the indicated. Again, 3.44 of the 4.7 million tons is in the indicated as opposed to the inferred right now on Rainbow.
Okay, this is maybe a stretch to comment on, but could this underground infrastructure also potentially give you future access to adjacent targets like Alchemist and Descendant from below surface?
Yeah, certainly. When you kind of go back to things and you look at longer term, having access to Rainbow and then drifting over to mine the Pine Bay deposit could give you a lot of opportunities to be able to drill towards Descendant or Poseidon in different areas. So there is going to be opportunities for underground exploration. There's a slide that I have that shows really that once you get into production, these mines grow quite significantly. So these are the initial reserves right here of like the Flin mine. And Flin outcropped its surface and it had a strike of over 400 meters. And these were very elongated deposits. And then it grew to over 62 million tons. So it would have been double the scale bar here that you would see here. The Lawler is flat and it came within 300 meters of surface, and they've expanded that quite significantly. And then 777 was a deep-seated deposit that was discovered over 800 meters vertical depth. And once they got mining it, it grew to one of the giants. And then Trout Lake is a shallow one. Trout Lake could be something similar to what we'll be following up in the Visionary area. For example, where you're hitting something small near surface that really ballooned at depth. So again, once you get into them, you typically have them grow significantly. And that's what we're looking at, at Rainbow. Rainbow is open below the 900 meter level, and there's potential that Rainbow could continue, or you can get other pods of mineralization or lenses of mineralization as you follow the plunge line at Rainbow, or hitting, different mineralization along strike in close proximity to those lenses that can occur.
Right. Okay. Essentially, and given the sort of state of the market at the moment, how are you looking? So I kind of want to get into the planning, because I think there's a few charts that would be worth kind of going through just to understand where you are and what you're surrounded by. But before you do, with the state of the market being what it is, and I referenced it, people changing business models and trying to adapt to what's going on here. Do you think that there's a kind of a quick route to some kind of economic study or toll milling agreement or anything else that's going to maybe just help with the kind of dilatory state of the market at the moment? Because money's expensive, it seems, and hard to come by. So how are you viewing hanging this together enough to put an economic study together?
In terms of the market, to touch on the market, I think the things are about to get a lot better for all of us. And that's something that's been a long time coming. And I think that truly we've had past conversations, and those conversations haven't been this excited. I'm seeing a big turn in the market. You're seeing that in the overall commodity prices. And again, I think that being in Canada, being in a safe jurisdiction, being in close proximity to this infrastructure, and being in a position to be able to fast track that as our leaders within Canada look to explorers like Calinex to transition and be the next producers, puts us in an ideal place. We've been executing our long-term vision, and our long-term vision has always been to grow the to a scale that we have today in terms of this land package that was not done by accident, and executing on that by removing the encumbrances that was over that property was absolutely critical before we could really get excited and I could share all this with you, because we needed to do a lot of work beyond just unencumbering it to bring all that data together. And we still got a lot of work to do on that. But what we're seeing there is very exciting, is what we always believed would rest there. And so what we're looking to do is not really respond to the market, but we could be in a position to delineate at Visionary, at General, or other areas that we're looking to target in this upcoming drilling to be in a resource growth mode. And you can transition that resource growth into a 43-101 updated resource that can be brought into a cohesive economic study very, very quickly as we're going to be receiving the permits. And that's the beauty of where we sit. We sit with a sizable known resource near surface, exceptionally high grade, hydroelectric power on site. And now we've got the potential and the runway and the targets to do low cost drilling shallow. And the difference that we have now today that we didn't have when we discovered Rainbow is we discovered Rainbow at 900 meters underground, and we showed the world what Rainbow grew into become by bringing it to surface. And what we're doing differently now, and it's just by the nature of an opportunity that sits right in front of us, is we're looking to grow the mineralization that sits near surface that we believe has a tremendous potential to be very large, and we'll be chasing it at depth. So it'll be low-cost drilling out of the gate relative to starting with the more expensive drilling, and the timeline to be able to communicate those results to the market will be much more quickly than what we've been facing historically, because for better or worse, when you're drilling a longer hole, it's going to take longer time, and that's been something we've had to manage with communicating with investors, because again, people are excited about what we're on to, particularly when we're drilling as well, and they want results, and we obviously are always working to get the result as soon as possible, but we've kind of been encumbered to that, and moving forward, we won't have that same encumbrance because of what we're chasing and what we're following up on, what we're so excited about, what we're sharing today.
Okay, so like there's a few Canadian VMS explorers out there. Don't have your grades. It's not necessarily near surface as you're showing here, but it might be worth just, if you essentially if you've got the slide up there, can you just sort of show us where you are in relation to some of the other players in, well, certainly Manitoba?
Well, I should note this. This is very key and very unique, and I don't think that people realize that.
Yeah.
But in terms of juniors, we're the only junior with a 43,101 copper resource in the entire province of Manitoba. Beyond what we're looking to achieve, and I'm talking about what we have today, we are the only copper resource within 30 kilometers of Flin today. That's simply the only thing to exist. So when you look at other VMS explorers, there might be other VMS explorers in Manitoba, but there's certainly not VMS explorers that are where we are in terms of resource growth, where we are in terms of baseline studies permitting on that resource growth, and where we're looking to go on a strategic land package that fits our regional exploration model, and we're going to use our proven exploration model that's proven success, and we've got shown success with it, and expand it to the north, where we think we're going to have success a lot more quickly than we have in the past, based upon the work that's already been done there.
Well, let's talk to that, because grades. Okay, I'm here. Yeah, right. I think obviously that's great. Near surface. Okay, fantastic. Suggests the economics might be there further down the line, and so forth. The brownfield, I get, because you're in the right thing. But talk to me about how specifically how you work towards proving up that scale, because you're telling me you're in the right part of the world, which is great. You're advanced, it's great, but the scale is the bit of the story here that if investors can get behind that, understand how you can do that, then I think this has some kind of re-rate potential here. So I don't know if you've got anything you want to point to.
So first off, I will show you where we sit in terms of the broader area land package. So the town of Flin sits right here. This is geology. Quite simply, you want to look in the yellow rocks. That's the takeaway for non-geologists. Yellow rocks are the host rocks, and you can see up here in Trout Lake, for example, there's a tiny sliver of felsics right there, and that's in the traditional Flin camp, where you've got 90 million tons that were mined of this high grade. Now, what we've consolidated is the Pine Bay camp right here, and the Pine Bay camp, it now encompasses 10,000 hectares, and you can see how much more significant that felsic package is. It's really analogous to Hud Bay's Snow Lake camp, which is further off to the east, where they're mining the giant Lawler mine, where you had a big felsic package, and then this signatures is something there, but where's the missing giant? So what we've done is we've been exploring along this main corridor historically, and now we're going to be expanding that exploration to the north. But to show you the footprint, I think it pays to look at what Rainbow is on a basis, just from a long sectional view. So what you're seeing is the indicated resource right here for Rainbow, the 3.44 million tons, and then the inferred resource for Rainbow is a comparison to what the 4.7 million tons looks on other areas of property, and again tops out roughly around the 90-meter level, or maybe a little bit more shallow than that. So again, that's the kind of a benchmark in terms of what a footprint of something looks like. These are all based upon how the geology is outlaid, are very steeply dipping and near vertically plunging. And we see this across multiple areas of the property. Now, we've got a new area that we've expanded to that I'll zoom in on right here as we zoom in into this area called the Visionary area. And the Visionary area encompasses the historic Leo deposit. And to the north of Visionary, there's another new area called the General, which encompasses the Alberts. And I'll walk you through that. But we're going to start by jumping over on a plan view of the Visionary area. And the Visionary area actually has had historic IP, which is the same exact tool that we used to begin vectoring to discover rainbow. So again, proven tool, as well as proven near-surface resources. So this is the chargeability survey. What you will be mapping typically in your chargeability is your alteration, and you want to drill within that, and you'll find your massive sulfide lens. And this was actually done by Ore Resources, and since Ore Resources left the property, that's when Teck had the back end right, which is encumbered any exploration. And Ore Resources had it figured out, in my opinion, in our opinion, but they just simply didn't go for enough and drill deep enough. So what you see here is a strong chargeability anomaly that spans a strike of over 300 meters. And these are, striking to the northeast, just like the other deposits and how the horizons sit. You've got the Leo deposit that sits right here, and I'll show you a long section in a moment. And then what I want to show you, what's very exciting, is this other chargeability anomaly. Because in these big VMS systems, you'll have a big high-grade copper, zinc, gold, silver VMS deposit, and then flanking it in the hanging wall, you can have a very high-grade gold zone, like at Lawler. And Lawler has just surpassed over 1 million ounces of gold production. So while Flin is known as a very high-grade base metal VMS camp, it actually has got a pretty significant precious metals endowment, and this has been something beyond just a Lawler. On average, looking back at the camp's history, the Flin district's thrown off about 100,000 ounces of gold a year, which is very significant given that it's known for its high-grade base metals. So you're hitting high-grade near surface, a vein system here that, again, is very, very positive to see and is open along strike in this area. A lot of these holes here that you're seeing are very, very shallow and predated this chargeability anomaly existing. A good example of what's to come over here is if we shift over and we now look at a cross-sectional view looking north to see the Alberts deposit over at the general area. So, and actually I'll do that in a moment, but first I want to show you the immediate resource growth. I was getting ahead of myself. The immediate resource growth are right here at Leo in this anomaly. So at Leo, here's a long section that we've interpreted. And again, others historically had been drilling in different areas and not understanding this as much as we do, and Ore Resources is certainly onto it. But you're hitting mineralization near surface over a strike extent of over 300 meters from really the lenses associated with the historic Leo all the way over here to historic Hud Bay holes near surface, which would all be associated, what was later to see is that chargeability anomaly. This is down to 200 meters, and if you look below 200 meters, there's no holes historically other than these holes that were drilled by Ore that tested below the 200 meter level. So we believe that there's potential to grow resources near surface down at depth. And if you look, as you saw at Rainbow has near vertical. And near surface here, AL 147 hit 8.5 meters at 3% copper. And, roughly chasing down vertically below one of Ore's holes, 98 LW16, 3%, 3 meters of over 5% copper, 0.66 gold. There was off-hole anomalies vectoring here, which is why this small fence of holes were drilled. A follow-up hole drilled here had a big off-hole anomaly that pointed in there. So, and it was not followed up in that area. What we're planning to do is come back, obviously test our interpretation to begin looking to grow the resource base near surface. And then we want to bore out this. These are much smaller sized holes, this deeper hole, and then probe it with a modern borehole EM survey approach technology. So again, here at Visionary, you're looking at near surface, high grade copper, looking to expand at depth that's being supported by historic work that was just not finished ultimately. And then we're also going to be testing, coming back, is the high grade gold zone near surface that we're seeing across this chargeability. Now, do you have any questions right now?
No, it's good. It's good, actually. I'm liking the detail.
And so as we now, I was jumping the gun earlier, take a step back and go, let's see what the potential for what a gold resource will look like. You simply jump along strike to the north, but we're going to look at a cross-sectional view. Looking north, you see the Leo right here. You see the mineralization at depth, and I think, again, you can see where that could go. And then you see the Alberts, and this is, again, to the north. And you see they were drilling it out correctly, the way they had it drilled out. And now I'm going to jump over, and I'm going to show you what has been done in terms of drilling outside of just Alberts in the general area. And so this is the plan view of that drilling. And so this is the Alberts. And so you'd want to explore right here for the giant general. And you can see there's been nothing done there. And that's a huge opportunity. And so what we believe here is you have the potential to extend the known gold zone, known as Alberts, at depth below the 325 meter level, which it's been drilled out to. And then you're able to also hit a whopper, in our opinion. There's the giant general that's not been really explored for, and that could be done quite efficiently with a modern IP survey. And when I say efficiently, you can look at Rainbow as an example, where we did an IP survey, and 3 holes later, we hit the Rainbow discovery. But based upon what we know to the south, what we're seeing to the north, and how you can see this coming close to surface, there's a real potential that whatever lurks right here could also come to surface. And given that the strike of Alberts has already been drilled over a 300 meter extent, this could be quite significant. So again, you have shallow targets, a proven exploration model that's multifaceted in terms of support, where there's been a historic resource there that simply needs to be expanded. And we've now put it together in 3D context, certainly in the Visionary area for the very first time ever. That was actually one of the last things that Orr recommended, was to put everything in 3D to see things. And that was never done down there. So that is why we're so excited and see the potential for shallow, high-grade, near-surface resource growth, potentially immediately, that could be much, much larger and more significant for the reasons I've highlighted than what we already have with Rainbow.
So how are you going to get after all of this? Obviously, new year, copper's up, gold's up. There's a bit of interest in those commodities. But how do you take advantage of the current markets to raise some money to do, well, whatever you think you need to do in 2025 without being sort of destructive to, the share price and, the share count, etc.? Because you've always been quite tight on those things.
Continue to communicate the story, but the story is dramatically different than the last time we were able to communicate it. And so you've got to think about things in a longer term perspective. And as a CEO, it's my job, in management overall, it's our jobs not to make decisions on the next month, 2 months. We're always making very long-term decisions and long-term views on things. And that doesn't always get rewarded in the shorter term by the overall equity markets. So if you're an investor looking at the company even several months ago, 2-3 months ago, you would see us as having Rainbow, the Pine Bay deposit, in vectoring to a very deep, potentially very large discovery at Descendant. Whereas when you look at us today, now that we've been able to unencumber the ground of the north, being able to bring it all together, you see us as an investor as a high-grade copper deposit that's bonafide with gold, silver, and zinc at Rainbow Pine Bay that's now awaiting permits, which is fundamental in this business because you can find it, but if you can't get it out of the ground, it's not worth a whole lot. At a time that's very crucial, I think, from the macroeconomic perspective of what's going on around the world globally. And then you have the path for high-grade resource growth that could blow what we've already done out of the water in terms of potential scale, and we can show that. And we couldn't have done that even just a couple months ago. You wouldn't have seen that. And now it's communicating that and then executing no different than we've executed in the past, keeping things tight, low burn with maximum upside. And we're going to continue to do that no matter the market's good or bad. That's our job when we're running a company that doesn't generate revenue. I like to I squeeze the loony until the queen screams, or I guess it'd be the king. I don't know if the king's on the loony yet. No, I don't believe so. And then you squeeze the penny till Lincoln screams, as one of my mentors taught me earlier in my career. And again, that's just naturally how you should be running exploration companies. But we're very well positioned, tight structure, no debt, near surface, high grade, a robust portfolio of existing resources, but more importantly, looking forward, a vision for so much more that we're looking to execute in 2025 and beyond.